1979, at that year's Royal Variety performance, a true Hollywood star stepped onto the stage at the Theatre Royal, Drury Lane, and quite honestly changed the life of our late and wonderful monarch. That's right, Her Majesty the Queen, Queen Elizabeth II. But what did this Hollywood legend do to make her life a little bit more flushed? As ever, let me explain. Neil Sean here, nice to see you. Thank you so much for joining me today. Lovely to have your company. Hope you're all keeping well, whatever you're doing. I don't know about you, when you watch those royal events, I'm always fascinated by the little chit-chat, aren't you? When they go along the line and you think, how do they know what to say? Obviously I know now what happens. They're schooled and they sort of say this person's in this or they've just appeared in that. But when you're younger and you're watching it, you're just kind of fascinated by it, aren't you? But of course, there's always the big stars that really resonated, the fact that they'd flown all the way from that glorious land we called Hollywood, and there they were chatting away to our wonderful late monarch, Queen Elizabeth II. She'd met everybody, so it was incredible when you think about it. But of course, this particular man, Yul Brynner, had already had an incredible career. He won an Oscar, he appeared in major movies, he'd done so much with his life, and yet, of course, had a bit of a, shall we say, steely reputation, and I'm being kind here. Now, a lot of people know this particular man simply because, of course, he starred in the epic movie The King and I, a brilliant movie that's often revived on stages in musical theatre form today. Yul Brynner did a deal with the impresario Louis Benjamin to bring The King and I, alongside the beautiful Virginia McKenna, back to the London stage at the London Palladium, no less. An incredible theatre, as many people know, and for all of those like myself who've been lucky enough to stand in the wings, stand on the stage, there's nothing quite like standing in the wings of the Palladium, knowing that this is where, say, Judy Garland, Jack Benny, Marlene Dietrich, Frank Sinatra, anybody who's anybody has stood there and had the same worrying thoughts. There used to be this big long mirror, I'm not sure if it's still there, and the legend went that every single person checked themselves in that mirror at the side of the wings before they went on. I hope we haven't moved it, because it would be such a shame, wouldn't it, if mirrors could talk, eh? Now, what happened with Yul Brynner was simply this, as I say, a rather, shall we say, difficult man in some respects. And one of these sort of prerequisites that he required before he agreed to appearing in The King and I at the world famous London Palladium was certain requirements to his dressing room. Now, anybody who's worked in theatre also knows that theatre dressing rooms are literally horrendous. All the glamour is up front, backstage, nothing. I remember appearing at the Hackney Empire in London, and literally the TV was balancing on a chair. It must have been about 40 years old, and there was a scrap of carpet, and that was the luxury. Oh, and a broken window, I know. Thankfully, I think it's been refurbished now. But Yul Brynner wanted something a little bit more. He decided that really what was required, and remember, this is 1979, and in England, and it's rather unique, was this, a jacuzzi. So in order to placate him and make sure that he signed, they did indeed give Yul Brynner a jacuzzi. Now, what happened was this, as I said, not much is refurbished in the land of theatre. But what is noted was, during the lineup, the little chatette between, of course, Her Majesty the Queen and the Hollywood legend, he pointed out that that was one of his requests. And she thought this was highly amusing and said, oh gosh, how wonderful. How did you manage to get that? The private toilet, apparently, inside the royal box hadn't been refurbished for years. Upon hearing this, someone alongside Her Majesty the Queen made a mental note, and very swiftly afterwards that particular water closet, private room, whatever you want to call it, of which I can say I've been in and used, dare I say, well, the bottom line was it was then refurbished, and she found this very highly amusing and referred to it as the Yul Brynner suite from then on, because she said all thanks to that little chat with him, then suddenly someone had taken notice. Apparently before that, nobody had ever thought that perhaps the royal throne in the royal box at the London Palladium may and could have done with a little bit of refurbishment. Neil Sean in the very heart of London.